Hello and welcome to In Focus with Insight. My name is Pamela Hellig. I'm Head of Insight Life Solutions, and this is an episode of the Open Books series in which we get to know fascinating and inspiring people in the actuarial and insurance communities through the books that they have read and loved. Today, I'm joined by Edwin Theron. Edwin is an actuary turned entrepreneurial leader with over 15 years of experience spanning corporate strategy, venture building, and digital innovation, mainly within the world of insurance and financial services. He hails from Paarl, studied at Stellenbosch University, and began his career at Momentum in Centurion before joining Sanlam, where he spent the last decade building bold, new ventures from within. Edwin co-founded and led Sanlam Indy, an award-winning digital life insurer aimed at a younger generation of South Africans. Most recently, they launched a homegrown tech platform that powers new digital and embedded insurance products for Sanlam and partners, bringing together innovation, inclusion, and social impact. Throughout his career, Edwin has moved between roles in actuarial work, strategy, product, and general management. What ties it all together is his passion for building from scratch, solving complex problems, and creating high-trust, high-ownership teams where people can thrive. Welcome to the podcast, Edwin.
Thanks, Pam.
Now tell me, are you a reader?
I am. Yeah, I enjoy reading. I think it's probably a bit more difficult to find time than what it used to be before kids. But
Easy.
yeah, in my previous life. But I enjoy reading very much.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because this isn't a normal podcast interview, in that we will get to know you and hear about the things you're busy with, but with the added angle of the books that have shaped you in some way. So you can think of this as the desert island discs for bibliophiles. But before we get into the books, maybe to warm us up, I'd like to hear a bit about your thoughts on reading and your reading habits. So my first question is, do you see reading as a virtuous pursuit? What's your hardest take on reading?
Yeah, for me, the biggest benefit from reading is probably that it exposes you to so many different people and ideas and concepts, so that it really widens your horizon. And so, in that sense, yes, and I think it is probably a very virtuous pursuit.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. It speaks to the reading snob in me. What genres do you typically enjoy?
I maybe easier to say that I don't really spend much time on sort of self-help books. I just haven't tried it. So I can't criticize it. I just haven't been attracted. I used to like autobiographies, so I used to read a lot of those, and initially probably purely on sports people. But over time, I sort of also started reading on business people, or really people with interesting stories. And what I tend to enjoy is to, I think, synthesize ideas from different people, characteristics or ideas, or how they have developed themselves or businesses, etc., and try and sort of pick out the pieces that I find interesting or that work for me or that I'm curious about. And in that sense, reading about quite a diverse set of people is what I find enjoyable. I do read a bit of fiction. I enjoy it. I especially enjoy it if I get sort of drawn into a story and you can't wait for it. And while you're not reading, you're thinking about the plot and what's happening. But most of my books are probably more about individuals.
Okay, I think we will talk quite a bit about that and about, I guess, innovation and AI. But so I want to get my question about fiction in now. So, what's the last book you read that you couldn't stop thinking about, couldn't put down?
The last book was the Thursday Murder Club. I don't know if
Okay,
you
that
know about it.
the tall guy who Richard Osman.
Richard Osman, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So apparently there's a series. I've only read the first one.
Okay.
But it's about this at this old age home, these retirees who start investigating crimes, and then sort of tells the story of the crime that occurred and how they solved it. So it's a bit of a different angle on the normal murder mystery.
Okay, I actually have one that my granny lent me on the shelf
That sounds right.
on my TBR. It's one of the ones with the large print. Stick. What makes a 5-star read for you?
On the fiction side, anything with a good plot that draws you in and where the story sort of accelerates and where it gets harder and harder to put it down. And I mean, normally then you just sort of find that you're sort of constantly thinking about it even after reading the book
Right.
and want to tell people about it. So that's normally a good sign for me. And on the nonfiction side, it would generally be someone who I have some shared interest with, or something would draw me in initially, and then who has something unique to tell. So either in their story or in their approach or in what they built, but something that I think stands out. That normally is a 5-star read for me that I would tend to try and recommend to other people.
So the books you brought today or sort of meet that definition.
As elements of that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you like reading physical books or Kindle audiobook?
Yeah, probably. I only brought one book, which is an indication of the fact that it's mostly digital. And
On brand for you.
yes, as evidence, and mostly just because it's so instant and easily accessible. I like physical books more. If I could, I'd rather read physical.
Oh, okay.
But it's just because if someone recommends a book, while I hear about it or see it and sort of go and have a look at it, the fact that it's actually incredible. If I still think about it, the fact that you can literally with one click
My gosh.
get it and be able to start reading. Yeah, I'm quite impatient with things, so it speaks a bit to that.
Remember the days when you had to probably drive to a mall
Because there were probably no bookstores.
there weren't, and order a book or wait on the waiting list at the libraries. The wonders of technology. So you head up Sanlam FinTech Digisure. What does your average day entail, or rather, what are the things keeping you busy at the moment?
I think it's hard to describe our average day, and that's probably indicative in itself. At the start of the week, I have a very vague sense of what I'll be busy with at the end of the week, and I enjoy that. It makes it interesting. Our mission is to do two things. So both to offer insurance in a way that aids financial inclusion, so to speak to a broader market than what could typically be served by the traditional models, but also to do so in a way that benefits the existing businesses in Sanlam. So to build technology and services and models and things that can be reused by the rest of the business. So we're trying to both sort of future-proof the business, but do so in a way where the existing business sort of ends up at the same point, as opposed to being outside the business and trying to compete with it. And so most of my typical days would be spent working with partners, obviously managing the team. And in our business, we tend to be involved in everything from product design to pricing to the tech that we use, servicing, automation. And so it's involved across the value chain, both working with the team, but also with partners, looking for opportunities. And then what I also enjoy is the involvement in our broader cluster, Sanlam FinTech. We actually have a range of sort of digital businesses and ventures, and all of us are sort of starting from the scratch building it. So there's a lot of learning and collaboration and influence and entrepreneurial energy that makes it enjoyable.
So you guys build tech solutions both for your partners, but that can also be leveraged or used within the Sanlam business.
Yes, yeah. The strategy is that all the financial services that we power should both be applicable to the Sanlam ecosystems, Sanlam digital platforms, but also to allow our partners to democratize insurance and financial services in general. Really,
Okay.
that's the game. Yeah.
So when you talk about partners, are there examples that people might know about, or what is a partner?
In looking for partners, we generally sort of look for partners who have quite a big client base and access to those clients. So where those clients already interact with them on apps or websites or kiosks, etc. There's a couple of partners that is probably somewhat confidential and we'll launch in the next 6 months or so. But one example is that we're working with Easy Equities, for instance. So we've got a digital life insurance product that we've developed for them on the Easy Equities platform. And so that's probably a good example of the type of partner that we enjoy working with to bring more financial services to their client base. So because in my mind, in a couple of years' time, most of the financial services will probably be available from your bank, your retailer, and your telco, and your investment platform, and everywhere. And so I think the opportunity for us to play is much wider than what it used to be, and that makes the space quite interesting.
Why do you think it's going that way? Is it just out of convenience, or is it like a trust relationship that people have with those providers?
That's a good question. I imagine. I mean, it seems to me as if that's happening with most services, and I think it's probably partly convenience. I mean, some people say that we only sort of use 5 apps frequently on our phones, right? So when everyone is trying to build up these platforms, everyone is trying to build this their own platform and have primary relationship with the client. And I mean, that's a risk for asset insurers, is that you can get pushed to become a back office administrator only. So what we're trying to do is to integrate our offerings and our services where you get to be part of the primary relationship with the client, as opposed to just being the administrator.
And I guess the grudge purchase of the
And we're
grudge
making it the
relationship.
gospel. So it gives us both the opportunity and the responsibility to think about how we can, in my space now, develop insurance solutions that make more sense, that are more appealing to clients than the typical grudge purchase. So typically sort of the embedded place, but also looking at other opportunities where we can place insurance so that it's easy and convenient to add to other transactions or to take out on other platforms, but where it actually makes sense, as opposed to just being a generic product that
Ticking the box.
that sort of flock the client. Yeah.
What is embedded insurance?
There are probably many definitions or examples, but typically the way we think about it is where we can place insurance with another purchase or transaction, where it really becomes an optional add-on, like supersizing a meal,
Okay.
but healthier for you. So something that you can offer to a client at a specific point in time where that product, I think, is applicable to what the client is doing, as opposed to just saying, "Hey, you are kind of the bank. Do you want life cover?"
Okay, so it'd be like booking your flight somewhere and
I
getting.
know, like travel insurance or accidental injury or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, gosh, so much I want to ask you about, but I think we'll probably touch on everything through the books you've brought. So what's the first one we're going to talk about?
Maybe it's easiest for me to just do them in the order that I last read them, because then I can remember them. So my first one is Nexus by Yuval Harari.
Visual aids over here. So tell me what is this book about, first of all? And is this the first Yuval Harari book you've read?
No, yeah. So it's his most recent books. I read these previous books, Sapiens and Amadeus, and I mean, in those already, what is interesting to me is, I mean, he already had a lot of thoughts around AI and where it's going to go and the future development of humankind. But now, obviously, with this massive acceleration that we've had in the last couple of years in capability, he wrote this book to, I think, to probably primarily share the message that we have still got agency about what the impact of AI is, where it goes, but also that my phrasing of it, I think the range of outcome uh, is probably the widest that I can imagine that we've ever had. The range of possible future outcomes for what humanity is like, what the world is like, the funnel of doubt, the actual funnel of doubt. Now, even over like a 5-year window, is massive. I mean, we can have this utopia where all of disease is cured and there's equality and peace and everyone sits on the beach and the machines do the hard work. Or, I mean, it can be this utter apocalyptic world with power centralized in one or two corporate players, and the equality gap is bigger than it ever was. So it's this complete disparity in outcome over a short period of time, but through the choices that we make currently, we've got agency about what happens and where we end up. And so I mean, I'm very interested in AI. It's obviously accelerating at a rapid pace. It's something that we think is going to have a massive impact on business, so we're quite curious to see what happens. But I really enjoy this real sort of macro perspective on it and on the role that we can play in the process.
Knowing that there's this huge range of possibilities, how does that make you feel? Does it excite you? Does it make you anxious?
Initially when I read some scenarios and some of the more extreme views of it, which sort of paint the potential downside picture, it's almost paralyzing in the fact that, never mind in my children's generation, in the next 5 or 10 years, the world can be a terrible place and humanity can be wiped out. So, so initially, I think it's paralyzing. But then, my perspective on it currently is that there are some things you can control. Our own usage of it, what we do with our teams, how we treat clients, what I teach my children, the skills that they learn, and all of those are important, because sort of if you collect that over everyone, it has a massive impact. But yeah, it's sort of focusing on the controllables. Then whatever China and OpenAI do with their models is, I'm sort of just finding peace in the fact that I can't control that directly. So
What sounds the way you're phrasing it is that, I mean, to a certain extent, we are the ones here and now who have say over what best practice is going to be and how you harness this power for good or for prosperity.
yes,
So, yeah, perhaps if we think about that from an actuarial point of view, I've spoken to quite a few actuaries, because the buzzword is AI, machine learning, but
everything. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess in the work that I'm more involved in, back office work, it's not as obvious how immediately, it's going to be have a huge impact. But in the work that you're doing, where do you see AI taking over?
It does. It does to some extent. So we had yesterday we had a group of students come to visit to just get to know what we do. How does work look in practice? Computer sciences, and one of our devs showed them what we did. In general, architecture and everything, but also some of our AI, because I mean that's obviously topical. Some of the AI applications, and I mean they were sort of astounded, because a lot of things that they had learned and thought about doing, the AI was already doing. So AI does take over in a lot of ways. In my team, I mean, we estimate that in the last year we probably had between a 2x and 3x lift in just developer output through AI.
Wow.
And I mean, a lot of that was still with what we now think about as quite basic AI tools. So the team is literally every week or second week having to experiment with a new tool to see what it's capable of, and the existing tools are also constantly evolving. So the day-to-day impact is already significant. If it didn't improve anything from here, it would still, I mean, we'd still look back at
Really?
and say like this was a fundamental time of technology acceleration.
So what would you, of the tools you've explored and experimented with recently, which one is the most interesting? Would you recommend?
Yeah, so we
people-
a lot of I'm not a techie, so a lot of things, a lot of the tools that devs use, and they show me, and I mean, I don't understand 90% of what it does, but I mean, I've got an aha moment every week when I see it, because they're able to explain to me what the impact is, how effective it is. But recently we used a tool called Lovable that does design,
Okay.
like front end designs by prompt. We could literally prompt an onboarding experience for clients, self-service, claims,
Just with
through
words.
a couple of prompts, mobile, web, everything, and it does so in a way that you can actually then plug into your journey at the end. It's actually, you can use the front ends and integrate with the service. So in less than a week, we had design through prompting. That, I mean, when we demo it, looked completely lifelike. So yeah, I think my sense is we have to almost get used to being surprised, because it's sometimes you see some of these videos, right? Some of these videos of conferences, or I saw one recently of cats doing Olympic diving, and it's so lifelike.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably the fact that we'll be surprised is probably the one constant.
Okay. Oh gosh. So you say that's lovable.
Lovable, yeah.
So do you have a quote from Nexus
Yes,
that you'd like to share with us?
I've got some Got my crypt notes here. Yeah, so the quote that stands out for me is where it says, "The most important decisions of the 21st century will be about data. Who owns it, who controls it, and who gets to use it to shape reality." I mean, that struck me because I think the power of these tools is not like anything that we've used before. If you think about, everyone used to be concerned with fake news and everything, but what can be done now, the narratives that we can control and the impact that it has on people, I think is the most powerful weapon that that we've had, for good and for bad, that humankind has probably ever had access to.
What's the next book we're going to talk about?
Right. So the next book is $1 Trillion Coach. It's a story about Bill Campbell. It used to be called $1 Billion Coach, and then in a reprint they've updated the name. So so the story, it tells a story about this person, Bill Campbell, who isn't well known. He was he really stayed out of the public light. Didn't do many interviews or appeared on talks, etc. He was originally a football coach in America and very unsuccessful. He coached at a varsity team and they lost more than half of their games. But his approach was all about people and relationships. And he really believed in the potential of individuals and was incredibly loyal. So even though players had bad games, didn't perform, or injured, he stuck with them. And really forced them to work on their academics, and he cared about the whole person, which didn't make for very good football results, where people would just sort of treat players as commodities at the time. But then he went into business and was a senior executive at some of the tech firms on the West Coast. But the story really sort of picks up where, at the end of his career, he became a coach and a confidant to essentially all of the biggest names in tech. Steve Jobs, the founders of Google, Schmidt and Sergey Brin, Sheryl Sandberg of Meta, Tim Cook afterwards of Apple again. And he became this confident and advisor and coach essentially to these executives. And at the time, I think at the first print, they said that if you tally up his impact, that's $1 billion businesses that he helped grow. But now it's $1 trillion by the time of the reprint.
And what are some of his kind of philosophies or lessons that you've assimilated?
Yeah, so what I enjoyed about reading about him, is that he really focused on personal relationships, but was able to combine care and candor. A lot of the times, if you think about coaching and being people positive and these things, we tend to think about it as soft skills and it being associated with worse results or sacrificing performance for it. But what he was able to do is, he believed that absolutely the most caring thing you can do for someone, for instance, is to be absolutely candid and to give them very straight feedback about where they need to improve. So he was unequivocally focused on results, on outcomes, but by developing people, by focusing on people relationships and building deep trust with the people that he worked with. And so what he did is he helped these executives to really develop themselves and in the end sort of build businesses around that, as opposed to just being focused on the OKRs or the strategy or these things. He focused on the people, and through that helped them to build, I mean, what we now know as sort of world-leading businesses.
So is there an example you can think of that you didn't do before as a leader, but having read this book now you do?
Yeah, so what I enjoyed about the book is that I read it probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I think it validates things that I sort of naturally was inclined to do, or the way that I'm inclined to lead. But what it helped me realize is that it's not an either or. It's not as if you either care for performance or care for people. You need to do both, because if you go to the other end of the spectrum, and I've been exposed to businesses who's done that, who's like purely worried about the welfare of people, and sort of assume that automatically leads to results, and it doesn't. And that also isn't good for people, because if the results aren't good, for a number of reasons, the outcomes aren't good for people either. So what it has helped me realize is that you need to have that balance. That on neither end of the spectrum is optimal for sustainable results.
So I know, leadership and coaching are things that you're passionate about, very interested in. What was your most kind of influential leadership role, and why was it serving on the Junior Top Council?
So I mean, a lot of very influential people come from Paul, a lot of sports stars. And amongst others, a lot of leading actuaries. And I'm sure that the Paul Junior Town Council probably played a very significant role that we shouldn't underestimate.
Well, I feel like you have ChatGPT with like in your brain, like gave the perfect answer. Okay, Tony Brenda would be so proud. So I can tell, you've mentioned and come across the leadership and coaching are things that you're interested about and passionate in. So is this something you've always been interested in, and it somehow shaped your career journey, or did you just become an actuary and somehow rediscover this passion for leadership along the way?
Yes, that's a very good reflection. I mean, I was exposed to leadership roles through sports and at school, etc. I always at the time sort of considered myself a reluctant leader. So if anyone else was going to take charge, I'd be very happy to support them. And if no one was going to do it, then I'd step forward. And over time in my career, I started getting opportunity to lead. And I think in sort of doing it, I realized that I actually enjoy it, and that I would probably now struggle in a role where I was sort of had no leadership opportunity or would work sort of completely independently. I think what I realized is that my natural style is just not to be autocratic, but to be a leader that gives people a lot of ownership, expects a lot of ownership of my team. When I just sort of started, I tried to explain it to my team what my natural style is and what they can expect of me. But I couldn't describe it very eloquently. So I just said that I like to take people with me. Somebody said, that sounds like a kidnapper. But my natural preference is to lead in a way where my team really have a lot of agency and input. And I expect them to have a lot of entrepreneurial drive to do it, as opposed to probably the other end of the extreme would be micromanagement. I struggle when I need to tell people exactly what to do and when to do and how to do it. That's comes hard.
You want people to have a sense of ownership of what they do and kind of be proud of.
Yes. Yeah, proud of what they do.
Yeah.
And a sense of mission and purpose. So, I mean, I love reading and watching the documentaries about the Springboks, because for me, that's one of the things that sort of stand out. Is that I think what they've been able to accomplish is to have that sort of bigger purpose for why they do what they're doing. And I think that's a lot of the fuel that's probably required if you want people to take ownership and to take initiative.
You've actually touched on something which I often ask people, in these conversations, because a lot of people bring these, not self-help, but like, these kind of business leadership coaching books. I always ask, how do you, you can read a book and think it's a good lesson, but then how do you actually implement it and remember it in your real life? I think maybe one of the secrets is the books that actually make an impact are those that already resonate with something you believe inherently, or with the way you already live, and this just articulates it, verbalizes it in a way, more better, more concisely or succinctly than you can. So maybe that's the secret of these books. It just like unlocks what you've already been doing.
Yes, yeah, which we were already primed for. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite quote from Trillion Dollar Coach?
My favorite quote from the book, something that Eric Schmidt, one of the co-founders of Google and executive global chairman, said in the book. The book is actually was written by everyone who was coached by this person, as opposed to Bill himself. And what he said is, Bill didn't work the problem first; he worked the team. We didn't talk about the problem analytically. We talked about the people on the team and if they could get it done. Yeah, so I mean, that resonates with me. That's the way that I would like to lead as well.
Okay, it sums it up. Make it about the people rather than the project. Who would you say is your kind of coach or mentor?
I've been fortunate to have had quite a few. So I mean, I recently did a executive development program with a guy called Ben Skuman for about a year or so, which has been very, very beneficial to me, very formative of how I live and lead actually. But I've also been privileged to have learned a lot from a lot of senior executives at Sanlam mostly, but a couple outside as well. I'm sort of constantly been amazed that if you just ask people for input and whether you can pick their brain, I mean, these people have high pressure jobs and lots to do, but I can't remember that I've ever sort of had someone say no. I mean, sometimes you just need to schedule it long in advance, but people are really, really open to sharing. And what I also find often is that you genuinely just need to listen. You only need to ask one or two questions, and I mean, these executives have so much experience that they are willing to share. That yeah, I mean, it does seem pretty easy to get input. Then it probably depends on what you do with it.
And maybe asking the right questions.
Yes, in the first place.
What's the next book we're going to talk about?
So the next book is the one that I actually brought a hard copy of. So this is very different. It's a very small book called Life of the Beloved by Henry Nouwen. And it's a series of letters. He was I think a Roman Catholic priest, if I understand correctly. A series of letters that he wrote to a friend of his who didn't believe. And the main concept that all of this is about is this concept that he believes that we are the beloved, we are loved, and we just experience this radical idea that it's not about what you do or your achievements or anything that shapes your identity, but I mean, so from the Christian worldview, is that God loves us unconditionally, and that can form your identity, regardless of what you've done or achieved or who you are, or what you earn. That identity is much deeper than that, and so it's a series of letters that he writes to a friend to explain this pretty radical view.
How did this book come into your life?
So my mom recommended it to me. So my mom was diagnosed with quite severe cancer a number of years ago, but was very fortunate to have recovered. And over this period, she read a lot, and she actually sort of now reflects back on it and says that she's very grateful for it because it's formed her and given her a new depth. It's one of the things that she's been exposed to. In our family, we have quite a strong lineage almost of wanting to teach and coach. See some of that in my life, but so my mom also, whenever she reads something insightful, she passes it on to all of us. The family WhatsApp group is very busy.
Is she someone who you get most of your reading recommendations from? Or?
She gives me good recommendations, and I've probably got a couple of other friends who also do. I mean, I think what happens is once you've got a couple of recommendations from someone that you enjoy, then I mean, it's probably like the best review system, because then whatever these friends recommend to me, I'll sort of just
You trust it?
add to my Kindle instantly. You trust it, yeah. People start. I think you sort of start figuring out where you have a lot of overlap with what someone else finds interesting.
It's quite interesting, this book about spirituality. I guess it, kind of being connected to a deeper part of yourself every day. How do you kind of balance that with the very modern, high-tech work that you do? Do you find that you need this kind of influence to ground you in a way, or how does it add to your life?
Yeah, it's probably something that you constantly need to grow in, being aware of yourself. And what I try to do is to really view it holistically. That work is not a box, and after work is also not a box. All of these things influence each other. So whatever happens in my family life impacts my work. Whatever happens in my spiritual life impacts my family life. And so I don't actually probably see it as these opposing aspects or forces. For me, the way that I think about even something as sort of personal as my identity has an absolute direct impact on how I lead and how I manage my team, and what I want out of my business. So in that sort of view, can I think sort of probably easily draw the line between this and a hardcore business book and a book about a sports team.
So what do you think is your purpose in your business? Like, what do you want from your work?
Yeah, that's a multi-dollar question.
Start with why.
Yes, yes. So I mean, we're privileged in sort of what we're doing now, right? That we've got an opportunity to create impact, to make financial services more accessible and provide more value to more clients. So that's part of it. But a lot of my journey over the last year, probably year or two, and especially with the coach that I've worked with, has been that previously I've really focused on denting the universe. Like, how many people can we influence? Like, we need to, like, I want to reach 1 million clients and make them X% better off, or they have that kind of demonstrable impact.
Okay.
And I still want to. But what I've discovered through getting to know myself better and through some of these books is that in the process, I also have the opportunity to impact my core team around me. And so in getting there, in the journey of getting there, in the environment that I create, in helping them to grow, in what I expose them to, in getting them excited about the mission, in seeing them grow, in all of these things, I already find a lot of purpose and fulfillment. And then it is still in on the mission to impact many lives and to have massive impacts and to create shareholder value. But what I've come to realize is that there is a lot of value in the process of getting there and with people close to me, as opposed to just chasing the numbers.
Yeah, it's sort of that paradox that I think it also affects storytelling, maybe influencing or advertising. Like, one person's story affecting one person can actually feel like a bigger impact than seeing affecting 1 million. Just see the number and you don't have any context around it. Do you have a favorite quote from Life of the Beloved?
Yes, in a lot of the book, he sort of expresses this probably this the same aspect. Where one of the quotes that I draw is that we are not what we do, we are not what we have, we are not what others think of us. Coming home is claiming the truth that I am the beloved child of a loving creator. But the world tells you many lies about who you are, and you simply have to be realistic enough to remind yourself of this. So yeah, I think that probably if you read that summary, that's probably 80% of what the book is about.
Do you think someone who, well, I guess this was written for a secular world. Do you think someone who's not religious would benefit from reading this book?
I think it can. For me, obviously, my connection with it is from a Christian worldview. I don't think there is, because I think the challenge of the world is all of these hurdles that we have to overcome to prove our worth.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's obviously very, very applicable to the workplace as well. And so, I mean, I think you can extrapolate it, and whatever definition that you place value on, you can define yourself. I think that is sort of one of the core underlying concepts, is that you determine your own identity and sort of pointing out the risk, I think, of having your identity being determined by what Instagram says or what Facebook says or what your peers say, what your title says about you.
Yeah, there is that famous quote, which I'm going to botch, but something about in a world that's doing everything it can to make you feel not good enough, just being yourself is an act of resistance.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that is a universal message.
Yeah.
What's the next book we're going to see?
So the fourth book was recommended to me by sort of one of these friends where now if they recommend something, I'll immediately read it. And it's The Innovation Stack by McKelvey. So it tells the interesting story about an entrepreneur. It's a story about an interesting person. So the writer was a glass-blowing artist and an entrepreneur and a philanthropist.
Oh, gosh.
And then founded a business with Jack Dorsey, one of the co-founders of Twitter. They found a mobile payments-based business because he one time they had to decline a transaction from a client because the client's card didn't work on his payment machine for one of these pieces of glass that he tried to sell him. And so typically, like when you experienced the frustration firsthand. You wanted to solve it. So it tells the story of how they found Square, which is a mobile payments business. But the concept is that innovation is seldom this sort of one moment of inspiration and one thing that you need to execute in order to develop any new solution. And often innovation is a series of problems that you need to solve. You solve one thing and it works, but it leads you to the next problem. And then if you solve that, it leads you to the next problem. And at the end of the day, he calls it the innovation stack. So you've got this series of solutions that you've developed for a problem, and that is innovation and that is value. But also, that's difficult to copy. It forms a natural moat. Because from the outside, you can't see everything that someone had to solve in order to get to the solution. And I found that very interesting, the framework. But also because I think what we find is that often, I mean, innovation from the outside seems glamorous and something that you can talk on a stage about. But really, at the essence, for me, is about action, is about starting, learning, testing, failing, getting feedback, and solving the next problem, and sort of working your way through the stack. So I enjoyed it because I think it validated a lot of my experience of how messy and hard it is to do these things.
So is this book like a series of anecdotes, or is it instructive?
It's a bit of a memoir, so it's a bit of sort of tells the story of the business, but in the process, sort of then validates the theory that it's built up. And what also happened is Amazon were competing with him. Amazon wanted to enter the space, so initially they had this sort of existential fear that Amazon just sort of crashes all competitors. But he explains how they built the business, what they needed to solve, how they went about it, and how now he sort of generalized that to a theory that he believes that that holds true for a lot of, I think, innovation, which is not incremental effort, but is aiming to develop new solutions.
When was it that you read this book?
This was a while ago. It's probably 2017 or so, 2016, 2017. So it's sort of just around the time that we started at Sanlam with some of these new ventures. And yeah, I think it came at a good time for me to validate what we were also sort of starting to see at the time.
So, and yeah, you've mentioned you like building things from scratch and, innovation and problem solving. So did that factor into your career choice, becoming an actuary? Or
Becoming actuary, I don't know about you. I didn't know about actuaries when I don't think Paul had many actuaries.
I also, what profession makes the most money?
This is a better answer.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do. But no, I don't think any actuaries worked in
Yeah.
That's fine.
No, I didn't know about it. So I went to see one of those career counselors, very, very, very good lady who did all the tests and ever and sort of gave me a couple of recommendations. And what stood out for me, I mean, I obviously enjoyed mathematics and science and all those analytical things at school, but what stood out for me was the fact that it was going to be challenging and probably universally accepted qualification. Not, I haven't worked outside of South Africa, but but I've got it. And yeah, that led me to it. But then, I mean, I failed my first maths test at varsity, so I sort of had to reconsider whether it was a good idea. But eventually it worked out. Yeah.
Okay. So then how did you get into this very unique sort of career path from, I guess your old Momentum, was that more traditional?
Yes, yeah, very traditional. And so, and when I came to Sanlam, also in traditional roles, I was very fortunate in that at the time, I worked for a manager who was asked to essentially start a new venture. And I mean, this was sort of 2016, so where it was probably more mainstream to have digital ventures.
Yeah.
One of those Sanlam executives at the time said that, realized that we didn't have as much market penetration in younger clients as Sanlam has in older clients, and said to my manager at the time, start a business with 3 or 4 people and experiment in this space, figure it out, which I'm very fortunate for. And he luckily asked me to join, and yeah, and from there we started the innovation stack. So we started at the bottom and started solving problems.
Don't you find it wild how life works out?
Yeah.
Like, That's
Yes.
people ask, what's your 5-year plan? Or where do you see yourself?
Yes.
Everything that's gone right in my life or career, I would never foresee. It's just right place, right time, say yes to things.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, Richard Branson has a quote that sort of, if you offered a seat on a rocket ship, sort of say yes and figure out what to do later.
Hold on for dear life.
No, absolutely, it's one of those. Because I mean, I've been so fortunate in the experiences that I've had, and because I mean, it really fits who I am and my personality and my style to the T. And I couldn't have imagined or dreamt it. If I went looking for it, I wouldn't know how to get into it. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, apart from just saying yes, do you have other advice for, I guess, actuaries who are still finding their way or finding what suits them?
Yeah, the best that I can think of is, I think, to be curious. I think if you're curious, if you turn over enough rocks, you also just increase your chances of finding it. I worked with someone who, at the start of her career, I think every year and a half, went to a new division. And I mean, between like life and health and investment and everything. And at the time, I thought, like, surely that's not a good career move. But I mean, it turned out brilliantly for her because you get exposed to so many things. And I think what's great about the actuarial profession is that it is so wide. So that it really does appeal to a lot of different, like, fortunately, not all actuaries are the same. And it appeals to a very wide range of profiles and preferences. So I'd suggest that if you have curiosity and you're interested in different things and want to speak to different people and get exposed to things and take a bit of risks here and there, I think that probably increases your chances of finding your place where you're naturally suited to.
I agree with that. And like you said earlier, people are unbelievably generous with their time and advice them and generally respond to a little bit of enthusiasm or just. Do you have a favorite quote from the innovation stack?
Yes, and I mean, so it speaks to this bias for action, where it says that every small action snowballs into larger innovations, proving that anyone can achieve meaningful breakthroughs by starting their journey. I think often we tend to think about innovation as being something that you need to be born with or reserved for a select few people. I mean, I think if you read the story about a glass blowing artist who found a tech business, and a lot of other stories, it does seem that anyone can do it. You just need a bit of probably curiosity and drive.
And you can start small.
And you can start full and at any stage, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What's the last book we're going to?
So my last book is Shoe Dog. So the autobiography of Phil Knight, who founded Nike. And my story, the story.
Tell me more about it.
So it's the autobiography. So he tells his story of how he founded Nike, and I mean, but like literally from selling shoes from the boot of his car. So he traveled to Japan, imported shoes under the label of Blue Ribbon at the time, and sold them from the boot of his car, and had success and started growing the team and the business. And how, by a lot of passion for what they were doing, they really, I mean, transformed the industry. At the time, all shoes apparently were sort of very generic, thin soles, probably just slightly better than running barefoot. And he connected with coaches and athletes and everyone. He was a very good athlete himself, and they, at the time, developed the waffle sole, which was literally developed by a coach putting rubber into his wife's waffle maker and testing it for soles. And through, I think, the passion for what they were doing, built up this sort of world-leading business. And so he tells his story. And what I enjoy is he's also very candid about both the cost that it had on his personal life and health and everything, from like really committing to this cause, but the joy as well of building something that leaves a legacy and that outlives his own efforts.
What made you choose this autobiographies talk about? What was special about it?
The sports connection. So anything connected to sport, I'll be 80% likely to pick up. And so, I mean, some of the probably shared interest in the industry that it was associated with. But also then, I mean, as you start reading, I think you get to see someone who does something that they're passionate about. 'Cause I mean, we all know the saying that if you enjoy what you're doing, you won't do a day's work. So that you can clearly see from his story is that he was so passionate about what he built that he was probably able to overcome all of the challenge and self-doubt and frustration along the way.
What sports did you play, or do you like to follow?
Everything essentially is what I like to follow. I used to play team sports at school, and now now it obviously is impacted by how much time there is with young kids. But now I enjoy running, swimming, more cardio probably. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think your sports passion or background has kind of instilled discipline or other positive characteristics that, have shaped your work in some way?
Yeah, I hope so, because otherwise, it's a lot of hours that I've spent. Yes.
Who cares about cardiovascular health?
We at Momentum we did a road show with some stats about longevity. And one of the things I remember said that sort of for every hour that you run, you extend your life by 45 minutes or something. And
Yeah.
somebody remarked, that's a very it doesn't seem like a very effective way of spending time. But
Actually losing for
you're losing life by doing it. Because something like, I don't know, a couple of glasses of wine, I think that more. So but yeah, so I think the two things about sport, the one is about endurance sport is like having to commit and stick through and follow through and work towards something. So there's definitely, I mean, my father-in-law did the comrades, and that's what he says, is that fuss bait that you learn from that is helpful for every aspect of your life. But I think also from team sports, I think probably teaches you a lot about working with other people, managing, and yeah. So I mean, I'd love to expose my children to that.
things you can't learn from AI.
Yet.
Yeah, a bit of a forced segue, but I did want to touch on, we were speaking about offline earlier, and yeah, to kind of round off this section. AI, what things do you think should be automated and which things shouldn't be automated? Is there like a neat definition or a formula or a rule
Yeah.
that you can apply?
What we think about at work is I think you need to be quite intentional about it, because I think the natural inclination is to try and use it to do everything and to just go through life with less effort and yeah, to throw everything at it. What we try to do at work is to try and force ourselves almost to still have the creative thoughts, to still think about strategy and what you want to do, and then use AI to test you or to think about wider applications or to help you refine concepts, as opposed to giving it the work and having it inform what you do. So that's something that I'm still trying to do, but at times it is just it's a temptation to just let AI send the mail as opposed to thinking about what you want to say. But I think it's important because AI can automate so much. I mean, if we just give it everything, then what's the use of the human in the process?
What are we gonna do?
So yeah, what are we gonna do when we when we don't have work? So I want to sort of protect my own cognitive thinking and creativity. I think because I do think that people who are able to use AI productively, but can still apply the level of critical thinking and creativity, I think those people will exceed. I think someone who just, I mean, it is pretty evident when you see some work from people where it's very evident this was automated without critical thinking.
Yeah.
So
That doesn't
so
create a good impression.
no, absolutely. So in my mind, that's still the distinction to aim for, but it does evolve so quickly that it's a fluctuating landscape.
Okay, but maybe there is some timeless universal truth about holding on to the creativity,
Yes, yeah,
no machine
yeah,
or no one else hopefully could ever replicate.
yes.
Who knows? But back to Shoe Dog. Do you have a favorite quote that's like you can read fast?
Yeah, there's a quote that I think just captures the process of developing and building from scratch, where he says, Phil Knight says, without fear, self-doubt, and uncertainty, there's no true accomplishment. There is no discovery. Which I mean, maybe also ties back to the discussion about AI. Is that if everything was just easy, then also what do you learn in the process? If everything is just automated, then not you can just look at the end result. But in the process of getting there, there's a lot of value and growth
And satisfaction.
and satisfaction that I think is worth protecting.
Okay, so we've gone through your books. I'll just list them. Nexus by Yuval Harari, Trillion Dollar Coach by Eric Schmidt, Jonathan Rosenberg, and Alan Eagle. Life of the Beloved by Henry J. Nowen. The Innovation Stack by Jim McKelvey, and Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Yeah.
So if I had to be very cruel and send you to a desert island with just one of these books, which one would it be and why?
Either Life of the Beloved, because it is applicable to your whole life, but it's very thin. So,
You make good fights.
so for that reason, I would maybe have gone for Nexus. I've taken me like a couple of months to work through it, so at least it's going to keep me busy, and it's in a sense it's a hard read because you can't just I couldn't like read large sections at a time. You almost had to sort of stop and think.
So it's not as easy reading as Sapiens, which
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, perhaps if you're looking for more reading material, I have a gift to say thank you for being on the podcast. Usually I like to give a book that I've read myself, but from your books that you brought, they're very minimal overlap. So I asked two CEOs, Barry Charles and Christopher Roth, for recommendations based on the list of books, and they each gave one, and I couldn't choose, so I got you both.
Thank you so much.
So the one is Fortunes by Ebi Damas. So have you read?
Read about it.
You read about it,
Yes.
which is about the rise of Afrikaans to free. And then the other one is The Creative Act, A Way of Being.
sounds
Which I
brilliant.
think, it talks about, how to unlock creativity in your life. So I think both of these, kind of suit you, and perhaps
Yeah.
you'll find value in both of them.
Thank you so much, and hard copies. So
Oh yeah.
they'll definitely stand out on my big shelf.
This one, it's big, but it's very lightweight. I don't know how they managed to get that right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to hearing your reviews. So where can people find you or follow your journey? I know you're writing blog posts at the moment. Where can people get hold of those?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I can't think that I'm active on any other platforms. So LinkedIn is where I'm most active on.
Okay, we'll link that in the description box down below. And any last thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, I'd say I'd say just generally, I think be curious. I think we're living through such an interesting time. The pace of change is unprecedented. Does seem to get faster. So I think it's a good time to be curious, take action, try things, and learn from them. The range of possibilities is so vast that I think it's a brilliant time for entrepreneurs and people who are willing to push the boundaries.
Wise words. Thank you so much, Edwin.
Thank you very much, Ben.